This is not a Ford Capri. Well, that's what you're all saying. In fact, Ford have decided to revise the Capri and come up with this, and it is full battery version of what was once an Icon.
And that's the thing, the Capri is a petroleum powered Icon, and it kills me that Ford chose this name for a battery car. However, politics aside, if you're looking to lease one, you'd be glad to know that you can pick these up for around 200 quid a month on our website.
So you know what to do, pause this video and head over there right now. So you're probably wondering what powers it. Well, like I said earlier, it is full battery mobile, and if we just pop the bonnet, the first thing you are greeted with is a lot of plastic, I'm not going to lie. There isn't obviously a frunk in this car, it's more about how the car actually works. So it's powered by a 77 kilowatt hour battery, which obviously sits in the floor because this is mirrored from an ID4. It has 335 horsepower, 680 newton meters of torque, which is absolutely berserk, and a 0 to 60 of around 5.3 seconds. And for a car like this, I think that's rather impressive. It's just a shame they chose the name Capri. Whilst we're talking about underneath the bonnet, we'll just look at the plasticky areas. Obviously, you've got the fan control bit. You've got two little plastic areas, and if you pop them open, you've got a tyre pressure inflator. You also have a bottle of foam if, of course, you are struggling and you end up with a puncture on the road. It is quite a nice place to put that rather than under the lid of the boot, and we'll go onto the boot now because it's absolutely massive. For all you big boot lovers, practicality is what Ford have put their time into. Obviously a power tailgate, no buttons to press it, just a little lever underneath. If I just remove the propaganda out of the way. So this boot is 572 litres. It does have a flat floor and flat load space, and underneath is obviously an area where you can store your cables. If we put that back, what I do like are these little bins. Now at the minute we do have a bottle of water in there, but as you can see, very good. If you go camping, you can put stuff in there and just take it with you and go on a walk wherever you want to go with it. So they have really prioritised making the boot space adaptable. We also have a 12-volt socket out there, but one thing that I do think it's lacking is a 13 amp UK 3-pin socket, because the vehicle to load thing with EVs is definitely something that's worth considering, but I always think there should be a socket in the boot, because if you do go camping or you go somewhere or you just sat having a picnic, you can plug it in and boil a kettle. But with that said, the boot is practical enough for you people to consider leasing this car, and we'll move on to the numbers because this car isn't cheap. This particular model is £60,000, but if you are on this page, you're obviously not looking at purchasing one, you're going to be looking at leasing one. And I am absolutely delighted to tell you that you can pick a version of the Capri up from as little as £232 a month. And if you want the premium all-wheel drive model, which is what this is, we currently have them on our website for £249 per month. So that is an absolute bargain, a 60 grand car for £249 a month. One thing that is worth mentioning though is when the original Ford Capri launched in 1969, it cost just £890. And if we adjust with inflation today's money, it would be around £12,500, and that makes this Capri 5 times more expensive. But what I want to know, is it 5 times better? One thing I do like in particular about this Capri is the lights, and I do think they've taken inspiration from Porsche, especially with the 4 little dots. And that brings me on to talking about how Capri is this Capri.
Well, it's not really that Capri, is it? But here's a few similarities. You get the black stripe across the front, which resembles the 90s grille. A curved window on the side is a tribute to the 2-door coupe, and the font on the back is the same as a 90s car. Oh, and you get this little metal spoke on the steering wheel too. Drop us a comment below if you think I missed something.
The premium model, as standard, comes with 20-inch wheels, and as you can probably tell, these are a lot bigger. They're actually 1 inch bigger, but they look absolutely ginormous. They're very flat, diamond cut. You also get massive, huge disc brakes on the front. Unlike most EVs, it's drums on the back, and that's mainly down to the regenerative braking that these cars offer.
It also has these really weird wheel arches that are made from carpet, and you can do this to prove it. I'm guessing it's something green, but it could be classed as weight shedding.
With that said though, let's take a look at the inside, because this is where things have massively changed. When you get inside this car, the first thing you notice is actually how premium the finish is. And I'm actually quite blown away for this, because a lot of Fords do tend to feel a little bit cheaper around the door card areas. Just the feel of the steering wheel and just how solid it is when you turn, and it definitely feels dialed in. There's no bagginess. You've got a leather topped companion bin here where you can drop stuff in, 2 cup holders, a wireless charger down here, and then the best thing is the screen. It's actually controlled by a little relay, and when you click, you can hear it there. When you click this, you can push the screen away from you, and then if you have any valuables or you have a wallet that is just filled with receipts, it's definitely not filled with money, I can assure you that. So you can drop that in, pull the screen down, and when you lock the car, not only is it out of sight, but it's locked as well. Nobody can get in and get to that. I think that is a fantastic piece of design, and obviously you can adjust the screen to how you want it in the car. We also have a B&O surround sound system, which obviously is Bang & Olufsen, but I prefer to call it the Bang On surround sound system because it just sounds bang on. I have to say, Ford really have come on leaps and bounds, and I think it is mainly down to them partnering up with Volkswagen. One thing you will notice is the key. It's very VW, feels very solid, and another difference is it has a Ford badge on it.
Anyway, enough of the front. What's it like in the back? Well, you'd be glad to know you can fit a 6'4" Tom in there quite comfortably as well. Headroom is a little compromised, but it's not enough to drive the tall people insane. You also get flat floors due to this being an EV and not a real Capri. I promise I'll stop with the digs now. Maybe.
Safety is also key with the Capri. If you reach under here, Ford offer the red hammer, which I'm going to call the anti-drowning device, and this is designed that if you just, it's designed to shatter to allow you to escape the vehicle. It does take an adult to remove it, but if you have kids and they like messing, and they were like me as a kid that always had to have something in the hand, that could be quite risky if they just hit the window. So yeah, safety, but could be quite an expensive mistake.
Speaking of mistakes, the main one being it's called a Capri, what is the not so real but fake Capri like to drive?
The first thing you notice when you get in this car is just how solid it actually feels, and I think we do have to thank the Germans for that. Now, when Ford first started working with Volkswagen and German manufacturers, we definitely saw an enhancement of quality appear in their cars. I think from memory, the first one they ever did was the Focus RS, which came out in 2016. Lovely car, very fast, built in Germany, and like always, German cars, top quality. Obviously, Ford have decided they wanted to introduce a steering square in their cars, and this one certainly feels a lot better than what it did in the Puma. It's smaller, definitely feels more sporty, and it grips well and feels very, very solid and premium. Obviously, the cabin is a very nice place to be. It lets a lot of light in with a panoramic roof. The seat is currently sat at its lowest position, and I do feel like my head is quite high in the roof, and that's due to the shape of the car, obviously being a saloon. One thing that is lovely though is the head-up display. Years ago when they first came out, they didn't really look that crisp, whereas this is crystal clear, and it is nice to be able to see what speed you're doing through the windscreen rather than looking down at this very small binnacle. The binnacle is small, and that is because it is pretty much straight out of an ID4, and obviously the way you select your drive modes on the indicator stalk, or what would be an indicator stalk, again, is VW. One thing the car is lacking is buttons. They do have haptic feedback, but the haptic feedback is a little bit laggy, and it does feel like it's not behind the button that you're actually pressing, if that makes sense.
But one thing that does make sense is the fact that this car promotes conversation. And out of every person I've bumped into, they've said,
it's not a Capri.
to which I've agreed, and then we proceed to talk about the real Capri, which brings me on to say it offers fantastic nostalgia and has most probably increased the value of your classic Capri. So really, we have to thank Ford for their controversy.
I'm just going to select sport mode. You do feel everything sort of stiffen up. Doesn't have adaptive dampers on this car, but what we'll probably find is the throttle response is mad. And with 335 horsepower and around 600 newton meters of torque, this is where this car is just, oh my god. This is rapid. I was not expecting that. Wow. Wow, this does not feel like a Ford. But again, as with all EVs, it is lacking sound. I don't know how else I can demonstrate. That is savage. Ford call this the one-speed auto, when in actual fact it's a dual motor all-wheel drive that provides direct drive to the wheels. So it is just gradual power. The other thing though is 60 grand. We mentioned this before. Is it 5 times better than the 1970s Capri? Well,
of course it's not. For me, you will never one-up a petrol classic car. It's a whole different experience, and as a classic car owner myself, I thoroughly believe I'm right. However, what is fascinating is the cost of driving a Capri over a 2-year period. Take the list price, it's £60,000. If you handed over 60k to Ford, after 2 years you'd be lucky to get 30 grand back if you sold it. However, if you lease it through our website at £249 a month times 24 months, it would cost you just shy of £6,000. Plus your initial deposit, which can be tweaked, but let's use 3 grand as an example. The total cost of leasing the Capri over 2 years is just shy of 9 grand, opposed to the 30,000 depreciation if you bought it outright. And that is why leasing is the way forward.
now as fast as this car is, it is lacking noise, and so was the BYD Seal that we reviewed earlier this month. It does, however, have some noise. When you're reversing in a car park, it has like a whirring sound, and it sounds very alien, and it's enough to alert people that your car is moving. But it would be nice to hear more emphasised motor noise whilst driving, because that's the only thing for me. I get in these cars and I do like to give them a good thrash with a bit of enthusiastic driving, but then what you find is, because they lack noise, they become quite boring quite quickly. But then again, if you are into the computer technologies of the world and you're into tech in general, you're not really going to be fussed about it. You're probably going to be bragging about the 0 to 60 time to all of your friends.
As much as I'll never class this as a proper Capri, I do have to say I'm pretty impressed by its acceleration, especially in sports mode. Yeah, Ford have taken a bold route to naming this car, but you can't help but realise it's an absolute bargain, and nowadays they're particularly hard to come by.
So there we have it, my first impressions on the Capri that is not so Capri. If you've enjoyed this video, give us a follow, give us a like, drop us a comment below with what you want to see next, and more importantly, if you're in the market for a new car, you can jump in one of these for the price of a Vauxhall Corsa. Message from Mr. Evans. The Capri was great, but I prefer a Porsche. Put that on your to-do list.